You've heard a lot recently about an Israeli military ground assault into Rafah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been mulling it for months, and the international community has warned against it for just as long, which is why the story of how we got here is very, very complicated, and we're going to walk through it together. Before October 7th and the war that followed, around 275,000 people lived in the city of Rafah. But like everything in Gaza, it's geographically pretty small. At 25 square miles, Rafah is roughly the size of Newark, New Jersey, or Arlington, Virginia. Since October 7th, Rafah has become central to many of our conversations around Israel's war in Gaza for more reasons than one. Rafah is situated on the Egyptian border, so when Israel's assault on Gaza began, the Rafah border crossing was the only path for food, medical supplies, and fuel to enter Gaza. And for some wounded Palestinians and foreign citizens, it was a way out. More than 1 million Palestinians in Gaza have fled south to Rafah after being warned to go there by the Israeli government to avoid being attacked. And now the Israeli government plans to attack the very place it told Palestinians they would be safe. So let's take a look at how it all happened. On October 7th, Hamas infiltrated Israel's borders. It killed 1,200 Israelis and took about 240 hostages. By our latest count, 121 hostages still remain in Gaza. By October 13th, Israel was preparing its large-scale military response: invade Gaza, eliminate Hamas, and rescue the hostages. Israeli military planes distributed leaflets above Gaza City in the north with the message, "Move south for your own safety." Many Palestinians sought refuge in the city of Khan Yunis, which is one of the largest cities in southern Gaza. The IDF then bombarded Gaza City, leveling its buildings and killing hundreds of civilians. But over the next several weeks, the Israeli military also continued to move south toward Khan Yunis. On December 1st, the IDF began its assault on Khan Yunis. On December 2nd, the Israeli Defense Forces spokesman posted on X, urging Palestinians to, quote, go to the known shelter centers in Rafah for their safety. This is the first time, to our knowledge, that Israel told Palestinians to seek safety specifically in Rafah. By February, Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the military to begin planning an offensive in Rafah, which he said was necessary to eliminate Hamas and free the remaining hostages. President Biden urged him not to do so. He did it again on a phone call in March. At this point, 30,000 people had been killed in Gaza. On April 9th, Israeli forces withdrew from Khan Yunis. Some Palestinians left Rafah to return to Khan Yunis, but found only rubble, save for some unexploded munitions. So they returned south to Rafah. At this point, 1.4 million people, half of Gaza's entire population, were sheltering in Rafah. Then on May 6th, leaflets were dropped over Rafah, urging civilians to evacuate. Within hours, Israel began launching strikes toward eastern Rafah, where it said Hamas was hiding out. 2 days later, on May 8th, the Biden administration paused a shipment of weapons that was meant for Israel over concerns regarding Rafah, which brings us to last week on May 26th, when an Israeli airstrike triggered a fire that killed 45 people who were sheltering in tents in Rafah. Netanyahu described the strike as a tragic mishap, according to NBC News' translation, although the Prime Minister's office insisted afterward that the translation of what he said was a tragic incident. Analysis from both the New York Times and the Washington Post found that munitions debris filmed at the scene of this attack was designed and manufactured in the United States. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Wednesday that the United States could not confirm which weapons were used or how they were used in the strike. Let me leave you with one more, or a couple more dates, if I may. On March 10th, President Biden said right here on MSNBC that an invasion of Rafah would be a red line. This week, on May 29th, 3 days after the Israeli airstrike sparked that fire, which killed dozens of Palestinians at the camp in Rafah, the Biden administration said that those very actions did not cross the president's red line.